just coming off a strong performance at the Big East tournament that we hosted in Mahoney State Park. Coach, if you begin with an opening statement.
It was just a great, Friday out at the Mahoney State Park, the opportunity to host Big East championships for the first time ever. And yeah, both men's team and women's team ran well. Both finished better than projected on paper heading in. Women's team just 2 points out of that sixth place spot. You go back and you look where we could have found 2 points. But really, really proud of how they ran, especially considering, Tay hadn't run in 3 weeks and gutted one out. And Allie, our number 3 all season, just had an off day. And so you just have to be really proud of how they competed and ran. And same thing on the men's side. We don't have a low stick right now, but that young group of guys matched up really well with those upperclassmen and put in a strong performance. And on the side for both men and women, you have to feel really good about running as well as we did at home for that opportunity.
You had long looked forward to the opportunity to host the Big East Championship at Mahoney. What was it like for it to finally be there?
It was incredible. No tears this week. You guys heard that threw me a rough one last week, but it was just amazing. It was, I was beforehand. One of our athletes came up to me and it's like, hey man, just take a moment to soak it all in. And it was special. It really was, to just sit there. And we had a picture perfect day. Like the sun was out and the sky was blue, and it was awesome to look across that start line and see, the best of the best, multiple nationally ranked teams and coaches who've coached Olympians and national champions there, and for them to give us the feedback that they did on the course and the events and everything else about how phenomenal it all was. And then, like I mentioned last week, the coolest part to me was how many of our alumni were back, the people that, have been invested in this program since that, very first year when I started in 2018. And we had alumni that were back from 95 and earlier and before I was here too. And just, having those people come up and just say how special it was to have this event here was really, really meaningful. And, everybody from the Big East is pretty positive and enthusiastic that we have the opportunity to host again in the future. And so that's the next thing we're looking forward to, is that this can become a regular occurrence for us. And we talk all the time around here about just raising the floor. We're never reaching for the ceiling, but if we can create a new standard in raising the floor, and that this can become a standard for us to be a regular host of the Big East, that speaks volumes to what we've built.
Andrew, Owen, Lucas, for them to have that type of race experience for the first time, or I guess the second time for Lucas, what does that do for them as kind of the staples moving forward?
Yeah, Fairs and I have talked a lot about that. Like, you don't ever want to not be present with where you are right now. And that's what I'm most proud of right now is what the job that those young kids have done, and both men's and women's side, and the job that our upperclassmen have done blending and meshing in. And at the same time, like every once in a while, you're like, holy smokes, next year, you have those 3 guys back that were redshirted, plus this group of guys that are now going to be sophomores, and then potentially another freshman coming in who could make a huge impact. We have signing day next week, and we're pretty excited about that recruiting class. And it's similar equation on the women's side. You lose a bunch of girls who have been part of that group for a long time, but we get some other people back healthy, a phenomenal recruiting class coming in, and a group of the current freshmen that will now be sophomores. You have to be excited for the future at the same time.
When you look ahead to the future, talking on the women's side, what did you make of Raina's performance, and what excites you about what the future looks like?
Yeah, Raina's, man, we knew. Like, we joke all the time. We finally got one from Texas. Texas is great running state, and we've known for a long time that Raina had the capacity, looking at her high school times, to come in and make a significant impact and have a great performance. And with Tay not being fully healthy, she stepped up and she raced and ran really, really well. And Allie's been in that same situation most of the year. She just had an off day. It wasn't feeling well. And that's part of our sport. It happens. And unlike another sport where you can call a timeout and sub someone in, you dealt with the cards that he put out. And so Still really proud of the group as a whole. So far ran really, really well too as a freshman. So, but yeah, we're definitely excited. At the same time, Carly and Kath and Molly and that group of girls, Annika, that have put in so much. The last few years for them to continue to step up and really honestly run the best race of their lives when it mattered most right now is pretty special.
I think the 7th is the highest the women have finished in a few years.
Yeah, we were 6th a couple years ago.
Okay.
But yeah, and that's kind of what made it be like, man, 2 points, right?
Yeah, all things considered.
Yeah.
Like when Tay has the day she does,
Oh.
is that encouraging in some ways?
So encouraging, and we were so excited about it. Like I said, we were projected 8th, and for it to be 2 points out of 6 when we didn't have our one truly healthy and our normal 3 to have an off day, like those girls, those ladies just really stepped up and ran so well. Our spread 1 through 5 on that scoring group was 32 seconds. Which is phenomenal. And we've talked about that all year, day one. That the strength of that ladies team was going to be our ability to run as a pack and have a small spread. So.
Was there anything that stood out to you about just the feedback, the response from some of the other programs? You mentioned the opportunity to welcome them to Omaha on this stage for the first time.
Yeah, it was awesome. It was really special, to be honest. So many of those coaches came up to us and just complimented us on the facility. And when we sat there and told them that just 4 years ago it was nothing but an open prairie, it's pretty wild. And to see their minds, but yeah, they were complimentary of the course, the condition of it, the flow of it, how fast it was. At the same time, being a fair course, how well run it was. Obviously, the windmills and the timing boards were great. The common question was, will you guys get to host an NCAA regional? And that's a pretty big opportunity, and we would love that opportunity in the future. The toughest part of that probably is the region we're in, with some of the best courses, not just in the country, but in the world. Honestly, every one of them said, if you were in any other region in the country, you'd be hosting a regional. And I think that, that's an opportunity that we still want to look forward to and pursue that. We definitely have a few things we want to improve on still at the course, but it's pretty special to see where it is from where it started.
Any further questions for Coach